Hi, everyone. Have you ever thought about investing? Investing in real estate is one of the greatest ways to build wealth, and you can do that through long-term rentals, short-term rentals, or flips. I've brought in an amazing investor and investing agent, meaning that she helps only clients that are currently investing, to just speak a little bit about what we're seeing in the market today. So I would love to introduce you to Tara Martin. So Tara, let's just dive in. Are you currently seeing opportunities in today's market? We know the market has shifted.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Kate. I'm so excited to be here. So yeah, honestly, there's a lot of uncertainty right now, right, in the market with interest rates going up, and people are a little bit concerned about what's going to happen to prices and things like that. And my advice to everybody wondering if it now is the time to buy is yes, there are deals to be made in any market, any type of market that you have. In this kind of shifting market that we're seeing, you're definitely going to be seeing actually more deals pop up for an investor, and you're going to be seeing less competition because you have to have more wherewithal in a market like this, and you have to be much, much more stringent with your numbers. You want to make sure that you're not stretching anything. You want to make sure that you have the proper tools at your disposal, because in the market that we're coming out of, you could kind of get away with stuff because the market was just on fire and everything was flying off the shelves. But we're now transitioning into a more level market where we're not seeing prices for the past few years have been just crazy. I personally don't believe that we're going to see a serious downturn in prices in most stable markets, but we are going to see a leveling off and then like a very slow kind of creep up, which is just what we see historically with real estate trends. Like over the years, prices go up. So if down the line interest rates go down, you can always refinance, but prices are not going to be going back down. We're still going to see them creeping up.
There's too much demand.
Yeah, exactly. And the crash that happened in 2008 was the result of a lot of irresponsible decisions, and houses were being valued way above what they were actually worth. And what we saw recently was just people willing to pay more. So they were bridging the gap with cash that they had that was kind of inflating prices. Whereas we were in 2008 qualifying people who couldn't actually qualify for the amount that they were being qualified for. And then on top of that, the house wasn't actually worth what they were paying. So that's why we saw such a huge crash and the bubble burst back in 2008. So that's not the situation that we're in right now.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, there was predatory lending, and they have implemented so many new lending standards and guidelines as a result of what happened in 2008.
Exactly. So we're all just much more protected. So talking about if we're seeing opportunities, right? There are always going to be deals to be had in any type of market, like I said. So it really, really depends on what type of deal you're looking for. So like you mentioned earlier, the type of investments that I do and that I help my clients with are short-term rentals, long-term rentals, and flips. So I'm just going to go briefly into what the difference is and what type of investment it's going to be, like what the return is going to be for you. So flips are going to give you a quick cash injection, right? And quick, I mean like 6 to 8 months, but it's going to be like a large cash injection over those 6 to 8 months. Flips are not a long-term play. They're not helping you build wealth. They're just getting you funds that you could then hopefully funnel into other investment strategies like long or short-term rentals. Because with those types of rentals, you're going to be holding on to an asset that's going to be hopefully appreciating. And also you're going to have somebody else paying down your debt on it. So you're going to be increasing your equity, which also helps you build wealth. So short-term rentals build wealth from obviously the equity standpoint, and they should be pretty heavy in cash flow because they're going to be much less of a passive investment than like a long-term rental, right? So you're going to be able to charge a premium because you're going to be offering, way more customer service, a fully furnished and functional property, and you're going to be more like a hotel than a rental. So that's going to require a lot more work from you upfront. So it's going to be high touch, high engagement, really not passive, but it's also going to be high cash flow. And like I said, you do still have that long-term play with wealth building because you are building your equity.
So tell us a little bit about that. Like, does location play a part in that? Because I know, a lot of short-term rentals are something like an Airbnb, and that might be, I don't know, like a vacation. Is that something that you're seeing?
Yeah. So actually there's a lot of different tiers and a lot of different niches you can get into with short-term rentals. You can also do like midterm rentals. So a lot of short-term rentals or midterm rentals are things like travel nurses, things like doctors that are doing residencies in places that have to be there for a long time, like business, extended stay, like business people, things like that. That's where you're getting into like a midterm rental, which is like usually longer than a month, where it's kind of like a happy medium, right, between like the long-term rental, because you're not getting as high pricing as that you would on a short-term rental because you have a longer stay, so you give a bit of a discount for that, but you don't give as much of a discount as if somebody was going to be signing like a 2-year lease or something like that with you. So you asked about location. Yes, location is definitely important, and it really just depends on what type of rental you're trying to set up, right? If you're trying to set up a very short-term rental, you're going to probably be looking at a place that has some sort of attraction, right? Like a theme park or a beach, or, like the Capitol, things like that, where people are going to want to go. That's what you're going to need if you really want a truly short-term rental business. And so location really does impact. You really have to have a plan up front for what you want your rental to look like. And then that'll dictate kind of where you buy, what your price point is, what you think your return will be, and all of that.
Yeah, that's huge. The planning out what your expectations are. And I would think for the midterm rentals, in Maryland, we have such a awesome hospital mecca. I call it a hospital mecca because we have so many wonderful facilities. And I would think that, and tell me if I'm wrong, that would that kind of play into that, is being near or within a commuting distance for those types of properties?
Absolutely. I actually did a short-term rental just I like house hacked my first home, and I lived right across the street from a hospital, and I got tons of nurses just staying there, and I loved them because they were never at my property. They were always at the hospital.
They're all working.
So yeah, like really not very much wear and tear, really not very much extra electricity and other things like that you're going to be using. And they're all just very respectful, and they have a steady wage, so you don't have to worry about them not being able to pay, or, things like that. So yeah, definitely our area is really good for like mid-tier, or even just like renting a room, like if you want a house hack and things like that, buying a property where you have maybe a separate entrance, or even we just did it where we had 3 bedrooms and an office. And at one point we were renting all the 2 bedrooms and the office. It was like, we were young, and, and I don't know that I would necessarily do that now, but when you're first starting off, if you want to build equity and not have to pay your mortgage, like they more than covered our mortgage when we were doing that. So that's like a really, really smart way to get your feet wet investing wise.
And that's huge, for those who don't know what house hacking is, to Tara's point, it's when you have a home and you could rent out either the basement or a room or a few rooms. And that money that comes from them staying in your property, even though you are still living in it, it's still your primary residence, it helps to cover the mortgage. So if you ever have concerns about, my mortgage payment, or maybe you are in between jobs or things like that, there are creative ways to still build wealth through real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that the one thing that you do have to watch out for with short-term rentals specifically, even if you're just renting a room, or if you plan on renting the whole unit, is you need to look into the county and city rules. For a while, like when I first started doing that, there were no rules about anything. So it was like free for all, you can do whatever you want. But since then, people have gotten wise. Governments have started imposing rules, making you register, making you buy licenses, things like that, pay taxes. So you definitely want to do a ton of research before you commit to buying a property to make sure that you're going to be able to do what you want to do with it, because even in some places they've totally outlawed short-term rentals. So you just can't do it unless you are basically a hotel. So that's,
yeah, I mean, exactly. My mom's community specifically does not allow any rentals at all. So long-term, short-term. And that's definitely something that you want to be aware of. And that's why having an agent, especially like Tara, who's knowledgeable about these specific government policies and things of that nature, she can give you the resources and the knowledge to discover that. If that's not something that you feel like, you want to invest your money, but you're not sure where to start, an agent like Tara is the place to start.
Yeah, I'm actually an investor, and the reason why as well, and the reason why I changed my business to only work with investors was because I was going out and investing and trying to reach out to agents, and I needed help because I invest remotely and I wasn't familiar with the areas, and I needed all types of resources, and the agents just weren't prepared to help me in that way. So I saw a huge gap in the market where I was like, okay, I know what an investor needs because I am an investor. So I'm going to give all of that stuff to my clients. And it's a different ball game, because I've helped save clients hundreds of thousands of dollars because of just stuff that I know that a normal agent just wouldn't know, because they would have no reason to know it. For example, withholdings in Maryland, like if you purchase a property in Maryland and then you sell it and you aren't a Maryland resident, they're going to take a withholding, which is a huge chunk of your profit until you pay your taxes in Maryland. And there's ways around that, but there's no reason why a normal agent would know that, because normally you're not selling properties when you don't live here, buying and selling properties when you don't live here. So
yeah, and I mean, if an agent hasn't invested, those are also things that they haven't self-discovered. So there are so many wonderful agents, and some agents have different specialties. So they might, specialize in a certain community or neighborhood or type of real estate. And so when you are an investor and you have an idea of what you're looking for, it's really good to find an agent that aligns with that and can give you those resources and the knowledge and save you money.
exactly. And that's the same with lenders as well. Like you can really, there are some really creative ways that you can work financing, and not all lenders are created equal on that vein. Kate is one of the most creative lenders that I have ever worked with in terms of really, really trying to find the absolute best way to make a deal work, because there are just so many different ways that you can do it. And a lot of lenders don't even know that there are multiple ways to make something work. And Kate is like a detective when it comes to that type of stuff. So it definitely makes a difference who you work with.
Yeah. And, I would argue that your loan structure is one of the most important things that we could consider when you're investing, because how is your money going to be used? And are we using it for your benefit, or is it using you? So,
exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
So talk to us. I know we talked a little bit about short-term and long-term rentals. Can you tell us just a little bit about flipping and what that means and kind of what you're seeing in this market?
Yeah. So I actually buy all of my flips. This is not normal, but I would say it's not mainstream, but all of my flips I buy off the market. And so many agents will tell you, and I used to be one of them, by the way, that it doesn't work in my market. There are no deals on market. Like, no, don't waste your time here, because I just didn't know. I thought, I'm an agent. I would know if there's deals to be had here. How can I not know this if I'm an agent? I'm in it every day. And boy, was I wrong. I shudder to think of the people that I led astray with that type of thinking. So flipping definitely is viable, really, in any type of market. There's so many different ways to structure it. I personally invest remotely so that I'm not competing with any of my clients. I really don't use any of my own money. The way that I structure my financing is from a lender, and then it's sometimes a private lender who finances the whole thing, or I'll do like traditional lending and then like use a private lender to cover the portion that lender wouldn't cover, like my down payment and holding and any type of financing costs that I might incur. So there are definitely still deals out there. Also, like I said, competition is becoming less and less as the market stabilizes more and more. The people who were in it because it was easy and not easy, but easier. And you could pretty much slap anything together and it would sell. Those people are going to be weeded out in this type of a market because you have to get really intentional, like I said, with your numbers. You have to make sure that you are reading the trends and your ARV is accurate. Because if you are using comps that are from the beginning of the year when interest rates were half what they are now, you're not going to have the same ARV in, 3 to 6 months when your flip is finished. So you have to take into consideration how the market is leveling off and what you can really realistically expect in terms of timelines, because that's the biggest thing that I'm seeing actually is it's just taking longer for things to sell, not necessarily that it's like selling for less money, but you have to calculate your holding costs for however much longer you're going to be holding the property. And that's, depending on your project cost. Yeah, that's not like a few dollars, right? We're talking about thousands of dollars, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars, depending on your project cost. So that can make or break your profit. So like I said, it's just going to start weeding out people. And then I'm still seeing that sellers are super unrealistic with their sale price. I do a lot of work in Tampa and I'm looking at these prices and I'm just like, $200,000 is like the ARV and this needs total gut. So
as the market shifts, so are expectations.
Exactly.
And sellers are starting to learn that. So you want to just be mindful of that yourself.
Exactly. And also don't be afraid to lowball. Honestly, like throw it out there, especially if the house has been on the market way longer than average days.
Yeah, don't do it the first week it's on the market.
No, then your agent will not think very highly of you. But my last deal that I just bought, they were on the market for 185 and I got it for 129. So definitely there are deals to be had out there. So, and that was just off the MLS.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, ARV means after renovation value. So when we're using that term, that means, what is this going to look like if it needs a total gut, what does it look like once you do those repairs and renovations? Yeah. And of course you want to account for the costs, are you doing it yourself? Do you need contractors? Etc. And that kind of leads me to my next question. So Tara, what are the resources, tools, or people that new investors would need to have lined up or consider prior to investing?
Okay, so definitely first off, you're going to need to talk to Kate. You're going to need to figure out your financing, right? Well, actually, I guess first off, you're going to have to figure out what you want to do, right? Do you want to do a short-term rental? Do you want to do a long-term rental? Do you want to do a flip? Like you need to have a plan. Then you need to go to Kate and be like, okay, this is my plan. What are my options? Basically, what can I qualify for? How much of a down payment do I need? What type of documentation do you need from me? Like, what are my options? And once you have the financing part, like more or less, what you can qualify for, then I would say you need definitely an investor-friendly agent. Absolutely. Like that is key to this whole process, is finding somebody that knows what you're looking for, knows things that you might not even know, especially if you're doing it remotely. You just need somebody who you can trust, boots on the ground, that's going to be able to help educate you even around their market. Investor-friendly title company is also a really important thing, because they're like, just as Kate said, there's, agents that specialize in all different things. There's title companies that do the same thing. Title companies that don't work with investors a lot, they're not going to know some of the like withholding things. They're not going to have the connections with the county that you would really hope for with an investor-friendly title company, things like that. So your agent should be able to refer you to an investor-friendly title company, and I would take their recommendation. So I'm just looking at my notes here about who else you need for your team. So it also depends on what you're doing, right? So like pretty much for any type of investing, you definitely need investor-friendly mortgage officer like Kate. You definitely need investor-friendly agent. You definitely need an investor-friendly title company, but then it kind of becomes more specific to whatever you're trying to do. So for flipping, you're going to need obviously a reliable contractor. That contractor is most likely going to have to be okay with working off of draw payments, which is basically like a portion at a time. Like normally when you are working with a contractor on like your own personal home. You're going to give them like 30% down at the beginning and then like the rest at the end. But with a huge renovation project like this, you aren't going to give them 30% upfront. Please never give a contractor 30% upfront because they will run away with your money. So you're definitely going to do like a lower percentage. I tried not to do any more than $10,000 down. And then I give them little draws as work is completed so that even if they do run away with my money, it's not a lot of money. So you have to just protect yourself in that way. With flipping, if you're going to be, if you're not in the state where your flip is, or even if you are and you just don't want to be responsible for managing it, a lot of investor-friendly agents will offer that type of service for you. Or you can also, you have the option of hiring a project manager who would basically just like oversee the project and make sure that, you know, things are actually being done, people are showing up to work, things like that. And they can take videos and photos for you because for some reason contractors like they don't know how their iPhones work because they get the photos that I get from them is like one window and like one faucet. Okay, guys, like move back. So that's another person that you could add to your team if you're interested in that for flips. So for short-term rentals, you're going to need a little bit of a different team. You're going to need probably a property manager. I would highly recommend a property manager because it's just so much. It's already a high touch customer service focused business. So you really want to build into your costs that you are able to pay a property manager to manage the property for you. And they have specific like people who they are dedicated to just servicing short-term rentals. So they'll take care of your listing, they'll take care of the cleaning, coordinating, anything that like repairs that need to be done, communicating with the guests, like all of it, they'll take care of it. So
it's just nice to have them field those calls at 3 a.m. saying there's something wrong with the plumbing rather than you. So
100%.
you know, it gives you your sanity. Typically they're paid on a percentage. So that's definitely something you just want to kind of dive a little deeper into to see when you're evaluating these companies, what their costs are and what they include.
Exactly. 100%. And then even if you have a property manager, I always like to have my own team that I can contact if I need anything like handymen, cleaners, maybe an additional boots on the ground to just, you know, furnish the place if you need furnished, because if you're not there, you're going to need the place to be furnished. And then you also need somebody to stay there before you go live, because you need to make sure that everything is good. Like there are going to be things that if you're actually spending the night and utilizing the Airbnb, you're going to be like, oh, actually, I need, you know, a hand towel, or like, oh, I don't have enough cups or whatever, you know, you'll notice little things like that you might not necessarily think of if you're just trying to like furnish it from afar.
And I'll, you know, even add to that generally, I mean, I've spoken to home warranty providers and they say that the first month is when they get the most claims. So if you've just purchased a property, you probably had a home inspection, it's optional, but you probably did one. It doesn't mean that the property is perfect. So there could be a leak or something like that. And to Tara's point, if you're staying there at least one night, you're going to have a better understanding of what's going on and the condition of the property that maybe the inspector didn't catch. And you can go ahead and fix those things before you have guests stay in your rental.
That is such a good point, because guests are brutal. They will annihilate you. So you need to have your stuff together when you go live. And then you pretty much have the same type of team for long-term rentals. It's going to be a different property manager because they're just going to be somebody who's going to be once in a while vetting your tenants. They're going to be collecting rent. They're going to be doing any type of repairs, but it's much less customer service. And they're not handling listings or any type of communication like that with guests. So it's a different type of property manager. And they also, like Kate said, work off of a percentage, but it's a much different percentage than with short-term rentals. And then the same thing, handyman, cleaners, and boots on the ground, just to oversee isn't a bad idea.
Yeah, and oftentimes your investor-friendly realtor will already have connections in the area. So this is just another really invaluable asset that you'll have if you're using an agent. I highly recommend that you do, because you're going to also have a network of people. A lot of times, I know with contractors, at least, nobody wants to give up a good one.
Nope.
If your investor-friendly realtor likes you enough, they might be able to connect you and share some of those local contacts that would be really critical to the success of your rental.
100%.
So let's just wrap up with this last question. Tara, what would you say, like, what is the biggest mistake that a newbie investor makes that we really want to steer clear of?
Biggest mistake is not running your numbers properly. And this can happen for a few different reasons. Sometimes people get so excited, right? They want to make a deal happen. And if it looks like that maybe isn't going to be the case, they try and fudge their numbers. They're like, well, maybe I could just spend a little bit less on the rent out. Like, maybe I could cut corners and like, I don't have to spend the full 80. Maybe it can just be like 75. And oh, well, like my house is going to be better than that house. So maybe I can up my ARV by like 5,000 too. And when you're doing the numbers on the computer, it's super simple to do, but that you just changed your profit, decreased your profit by like $10,000 actual dollars when by just making those two small adjustments. So it's really, really important that you are strict with your numbers. You want to be very conservative with your ARV. If anything, you want to underestimate what you're going to get because you never know what can happen. And obviously we have contingency plans, like you can always refi out and turn it into a rental, things like that if something were to happen. But you really don't, you want to set yourself up for success from the beginning. And I just see a lot of people get emotionally attached to things, especially, when you start flipping specifically, you're going to be putting out lots of offers before you even get one accepted. So once you get one accepted and you're running the numbers like more detailed, you're like, oh my gosh, you really want it to work because you've put in so many offers. It took you so many offers to get this one accepted. And now you're like, oh, well, this is really not like what I thought. Like the rental costs are a little bit more, but maybe I can like lower them. And you want to just try. I understand you really want to try and make the deal work, but you don't want to, it's not worth it to not make a profit or, get yourself into a situation where you're making way less. And if just one thing that goes wrong could totally derail the project. It's just going to be too stressful and you don't want to be in that type of situation. And then, so as I'm saying in the same breath, I'd like to tell you that there are a lot of people that get into analysis paralysis, right? They want to make sure that they know everything about real estate investing. Anything that could possibly go wrong, they want to know about it and they want to prepare for it up front, and then they'll be ready to invest, right? Well, this is impossible. I'm here to tell you, I've been doing this for years and years, and there are still things that come up that I'm like, what in the world is going on? And what is this? How do I fix this? So trying to prepare totally before you dive in, you're never going to dive in and you're never going to be prepared. And you're also going to have a bad mentality because when you get into it and you face things that you were not prepared for, you're going to freak out. So I would say you have to find a happy balance between not trying to over prepare to the point where you don't take any action and being reckless with your numbers, because there has to be a balance there. And it's, it just takes time. So I would say finding a mentor and working with that mentor that's what I do every time I do any type of new business. I always pay somebody to cut down on the amount of time it's going to take me to learn and the amount of mistakes I'm going to make and money I'm going to lose. So a good mentor should more than pay for themselves. My mentor, I've like 10x my investment. Probably, I mean, my most recent one, probably more than that now, but it's always a good plan to have somebody who's done it before and can show you how to do it and answer any questions that you might have. Then it takes some of the pressure off.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a roadmap to pretty much anything. We just have to find you the right people.
Exactly.
And, I'll add like a really gentle way to get into investing if it makes you a little uneasy, but I would assume that if you're still with us, you're really excited to do it. But I mean, I've talked with people about investing and they think they want to do it and then they get too nervous. And
Yeah.
a gentle way of doing that could be if you have a primary residence, a home that you currently live in, and you want to purchase another home, you could purchase your next primary residence if you've stayed in your current one long enough, and you could turn the one that you're currently in into a rental. like a short-term or a long-term rental, whatever makes sense, as long as the numbers make sense, as long as you have enough money for your home that you're going to buy next. So that would be a gentle transition into investing. If you want to talk more about your options or how to, really dip your toe into investing, or if you're an investor and you're ready to purchase your next property, please reach out to me. My name is Kate Westerlin. I'm a loan officer with First Home Mortgage, and this is Tara Martin with Samson Properties. We would love to help you. That's all for this afternoon. Thank you so much, Tara. I really appreciate your time and your knowledge.
Thank you, Kate. This was lovely. I had so much fun.
Thank you. Take care.